We will have a couple more folks joining us, but I want to get started to honor everyone's time. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ellie Garrity, and I'm the Director of Alumni Career Programs at the University of Maryland's Alumni Association. We're so excited that you're able to join us for today's Masterclass, which is a series exclusive to members like you that hosts high-profile TERPs focused on professional advancement, personal improvement, and financial guidance. I have a few housekeeping items before we begin. This event is being recorded, as you might have heard, and I ask that you stay on mute throughout the duration of the event. Feel free to submit your questions through the chat function on the bottom panel of your Zoom screen, and Lakeisha will be addressing all of that throughout her presentation. Now, today's masterclass is hosted by alumna Lakeisha Mathews. Hi, Lakeisha. Lakeisha is an experienced professional, and she is an experienced professional, career development professional, with over 15 years of experience helping professionals attain their career goals. Lakeisha is the owner and primary career coach Lakeisha is the owner and primary career coach for Right Resumes and Career Coaching, LLC. She's also worked in various career centers in Maryland, and she's currently the director of Career and Internship Center at the University of Baltimore. She's a certified Global Career Development Facilitator, certified professional resume writer, and a certified professional career coach. And she's been trained in the federal job search process, including federal resume writing. So Lakeisha knows what she's doing, everyone. So I will be passing it over to Lakeisha. She's going to share a little bit more about herself and get things started. Go ahead, Lakeisha, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ellie. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are from around the country. I am so excited to be here with my fellow TERPs today to talk about career and professional development or advancement during a pandemic. I work in career services at the University of Baltimore with adult learners like many of you who are mid-management, mid-level professionals. And in my individual business, Right Resumes and Career Coaching, I work with professionals who are starting out all the way to those who are planning on retiring. And the one thing I know, and the one thing that people have been asking is, what is going on in the economy? How do I make a career change right now? And I hope we can just address some of those things today in the short time that we have together. So we're talking about thriving in a changing world of work, and we're specifically honing in on our group today is advancing your career during a pandemic. So today's session is for those of us who want to make a move, who want to maybe transition, make a career change. Tomorrow's session is for those who are more experienced and sort of at the executive level and what's next in their lives for an encore career. But I'm happy to be talking to this group because I spend the most time with professionals like yourselves. Now, if you could tell me in the chat, do you consider yourself mid-management or mid-level, or are you a career changer? That would be fantastic for me, so I know who is on the call today. Go ahead and just let me know. Are you mid-level, mid-professional, middle manager, career changer? Wonderful. I see folks, we have some mid-level, lost. That's okay. Sometimes we're all lost, Megan. That's why we're here today. Those are the folks I like to work with. Love you and thank you for your honesty. Love that comment. Entry-ish, okay. Yep, took some time off to take care of family. Right now, you have a lot of people who need to step out and step back in the workspace. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. I'm reading those. Overall, it looks like we're mostly mid-level, so I'm excited to speak with you. Thanks to Ellie for that wonderful introduction. I just want to add, I am not going to read what is up here. I do want to share, though, some exciting news in my life is I've been in career for quite some time. I do run one of the career centers for a USM institution, but I am fortunate enough to be the president-elect of the National Career Development Association. So my industry means a lot to me. I count it an honor to be able to work with people on their career goals, their career development, and help them strategize and plan their next moves, because there's a lot of emotions, fear, anxiety, disappointment that can come with career development. And I've just enjoyed my work in this space, particularly with adults. So my work is not like many people on campus career centers with traditional students. My work has been with mid-level folks like yourself. In 2016, I had the wonderful opportunity opportunity to write a chapter in a book called Find Your Fit. It is published by the Association of Training and Development. If you'd like to purchase it, I wrote chapter 1. You can find it on Amazon, or you can find it on the Association of Training and Development. Just take a quick snapshot of the screen with your mobile phone if you like. For those who said they were lost, this book is for you. It's a really good book to work through to help you figure out what your next role is. And then just a little bit about me as far as being a TERP. I graduated from College Park in 2002. I started in 98. While I was there, I lived in Elkton Hall on, I think, like the 8th floor or something, with no air conditioning. And then I became a resident assistant, lived in Cumberland Hall, Chestertown, and that whole quad. So I never left that side of campus for some reason. I never had air conditioning my entire time at College Park, but I truly enjoyed my experience there and working as an undergrad really at College Park as a resident assistant. I worked in the orientation office is really what got me to where I am today in higher education. So just wanted to throw that in. Shout out to anybody else who lived in Cambridge or Chestertown or Elkton Hall and on that side of campus. All right, so let's dive in. I am going to give you guys a heads up. I am using a new technology called Canva and not PowerPoint. So if I go too fast or too slow, excuse me. This is the first time I am presenting with this tool. So I'm going to do my best here, but I think you'll like it. It's rather fancy. Okay, so I wanted to start off today by looking at the headlines, because I think the reason many of us will come to a session like this and the reason so many of us have questions is because the news tells us conflicting things sometimes about what is going on in the world of work and what we should or shouldn't do. I have given so many interviews over the last 2 years to major news outlets about what is happening. And I always tell them, we cannot just throw a blanket statement over what is happening in the workforce today. We really have to explain to people and help people navigate their own industry along with their own goals. So my goal today is not to provide a whole bunch of blanket statements about 5 steps for your career this, 3 steps for your career this. I really want to give you strategies and steps that you can take and make them your own for what your personal goals are, your story, your career narrative. Okay, let's see here, a couple of these things up here. Right now, nearly 7 in 10 full-time workers in the US work from home. So I am one of those. Today I'm on campus. I actually work 2 days on campus now and 3 days at home, hybrid. I think hybrid is harder than all virtual because we were all virtual in the spring. But for some of us, this is our new life. This is the new world of work. And if you're going to go out there and job search, the virtual space or hybrid is something that some of us will have to navigate as we're going out to look for work. In 2021, 52% of employees said they intend to look for a new job. This is the biggest thing that's going on right now, because a lot of people who wanted to move pre-COVID and make a career move didn't once the pandemic happened, right? We were just happy to have a job. If you didn't lose a job during the pandemic, you were fortunate. You didn't dare try to make some sort of career move. But the fact of the matter is, now that things are changing, we're living in a new normal. We're not post-pandemic. I heard someone the other day saying, I'm doing a workshop on post-pandemic. I said, not post-pandemic yet. We're still in the pandemic, but now that we kind of have a new normal, people are leaving. So right now, the workplace, the job search space is very competitive. So one of my goals is to share with you all today also what employers are saying they want now. One of the luxuries of working in my area is that I not only get to help job seekers, but I get to talk to employers who are hiring mid-level, mid-professional professionals, and I get to hear what they want and where we're disconnecting at, especially for those of you who might be saying, I've been applying and applying and applying and nothing's happening. Well, I hope I can share something today to help you with that. In March 2020, the quit rate, the number of jobs quit that month divided by total employment dipped below 2. So here you see in 2020, all of a sudden, nobody was quitting. And then in 2021, boom, people started to move. So now we have a very competitive market out there. Now, there is a disparity across demographics or certain aspects of career mobility. One of the things I will talk about a little later is the role social justice is playing in the world of work now, because I think we have really two pandemics going on, because a lot of the social upheaval that has taken place over the last 3-4 years has taken place with the pandemic, and the world of work is adjusting to both the new call for diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as the new normal because of the pandemic. The job market hasn't made a full recovery yet, says the Simplicity 2021 report, but it's no secret, and this is key, you all. Companies are aggressively hiring. They are. But if you don't have a strategy for how to job search and advance your career, you're just circling around the activity that's taking place. So our learning goals today is to not look like this woman on the screen, frustrated, but instead to think about strategies for making a career change, to discuss some insights on seeking out opportunities for advancement during a pandemic, to talk about how to develop your talent. So the main thing with advancing a career is developing yourself, honing those leadership skills, probably the top competency for advancing your career, and also being multiculturally competent, which again is that second piece in addition to the pandemic that is really important and critical in today's workforce and what employers are talking about to those of us in the career development space. So I hope this is what you're looking forward to hearing about today. Let's take a really quick poll. Many of you already told me what level you are on, but if you're seeking to make a career move within the next, let's say 6 to 12 months, type yes or no into the chat. If you are seeking to make a career move, career change, advancement, new job, new company, put yes. Okay, Amanda says she just made a move. A lot of yeses. Wow, a lot of Terps trying to make career moves these days. Awesome. Very good. Thank you all for sharing. Okay, so let's start off by talking about what the new world of work looks like. This is important because if you are making a career move, how you interview, how you're onboarded, success on the job, what you can negotiate, all of these areas have now been impacted by the pandemic. So in this next section, what I want to talk about are the 4 areas that you're going to find we're living in a new normal for, depending on your industry. If there's any word or tagline you take away from what I'm saying today, it is depending on your industry. When you look at the media, I think why people get so discouraged is because they talk about certain industries with blanket statements. But the pandemic, truthfully, has impacted different industries differently. So even with everything that I'm sharing, some of these things are more prevalent in some of your industries and less prevalent in others. Please keep that in mind. One of the biggest changes you're going to see as you go out and try to advance or make a career change is the nature of remote work. Is the employer going to be asking you to work remote? What is working remote? Do you have to be in the same state? Can you be in a different state? Does it mean 80 hours every 2 weeks? Is it a flexible schedule with that remote work? Do you have to come into the office every now and then? Or are you hybrid like me, 2 days in the office, 3 days at home? This new concept of remote work. So if you're going out there and looking, I think there are 2 pieces to this. Some of you probably know you prefer remote work. I think some of us learned during the pandemic, hey, I kind of like this. I can throw a load of laundry in at lunch. I don't have to get up an hour for my commute. I can just roll out of bed and start working, right? So you have to think about what do you want from the employer? And then you also have to go in asking the right questions to get a good understanding of what their workforce looks like now. There are companies out who are selling their buildings. They're never going back to a permanent space. There are some who are in hybrid, and there are others that are confused. In my industry in higher education, if you've watched the news in the East Coast in Maryland, some of the schools are saying, no, we're all coming back. And many of the staff members are fighting it, saying, we're not coming back. We proved we could do our work from home. So it's some industries still figuring it out. Some have said, nope, all virtual. And then others have said, nope, our work cannot be done virtually. We're all coming back. So very much by the industry that you're in. Work-life balance. One of the things I think positive things or silver lining from the pandemic, because overall the pandemic, of course, has just been horrible. And my heart goes out to any of you who have lost loved ones. I lost an uncle to COVID-19. I think one of the things that we all know is our emotions have gone up and down for the last 2 years, right? And we all recognize when we were sent home, if you were sent home, work-life balance is very important. And I think that's one of the bigger messages coming out, is that people can be productive working remotely, and people can have work-life balance and still do good work. I think that is the major lesson for America, at least in this pandemic. Technology. If you were one of those persons before COVID that did not keep up on technology, let me tell you, I need you to give you a spanking on your hand right now, because technology is everything right now. And for those of us who want to advance, we need to be on the top of our game with what types of technology are needed in our industry. Now, some of our industries are more tech driven than others, but I will tell you all, in my industry of higher education and career counseling, we no longer have landlines in our offices. We transitioned completely to Microsoft Team phones over the pandemic while we were home virtually. And now even in the office, our phones are on our computers. There's no more landline. We learned how to use things like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So one of the things for those who want to advance is I really challenge you, if you're not a tech person, to not only adopt how technology is going to be used in our new normal, but to also pick one technology that's needed for your function or your industry and become an expert and highly competent in it. Because moving forward, technology will be a skill set that employers need all employees to be knowledgeable of. And then health compliance. If you're looking to advance, especially if you're looking to leave and go to a new company, be aware that there are all sorts of compliance rules out there depending on who you're working for and where you're working. Here in Maryland, I work for the University System of Maryland. Just like Ellie, we have a vaccine mandate. Has caused quite an uproar, and there are some lawsuits in our state that are coming forth from students. On my institution, we also have a universal mask mandate. So just be aware as you're out there job searching, as you're looking for a new place, see where they are with their health compliance and what their rules are, because you want to make sure that they align with yours as well. I think that that's one of the risky things, right, about looking for a job during a pandemic. But overall, the four new normals that we have to live in is, what does remote work look like in my new opportunity? What does work-life balance look like for me now? And am I up to date on the technology that's needed to succeed in this new way of being? And what are the health compliance policies that are out there that I am willing to comply with for wherever I choose to go? Okay, so that's sort of what's going on in the world of work. Now, how do we then take all of that and actually make a transition and actually make a change? Let's talk a little bit about that. So first and foremost, again, I can't stress this enough. How you make a change, when you make a change, the type of change that you make is going to be highly dependent on your industry. All industries have been hit differently by COVID. From here, you can see the industries that are up in their hiring, particularly for those with college degrees, okay? So in my industry, we really look at the job market differently, not only by industry, but also by level of education, because employers hire by level of education. So for all of us, obviously being alumni of Maryland, if we fall into any of these industries, our industries are hiring. I can tell you, just looking at this list right here, I can almost name off companies that have reached out to my office recently, looking for both entry level and mid-level and experienced professionals. I don't think that there's any of these industries where you couldn't find an opportunity for advancement. However, what we are hearing is that people are not selling themselves well or packaging themselves. So what happens when you have a competitive environment, when you have a flood of people who are trying to find work or change careers, is employers then have to develop more stringent strategies to eliminate resumes, right? So they have a greater demand on what your professional package looks for, because they have to weed out more people. So more than ever before, your industry may be hiring, but it also means the demand for how you need to show up in your resume and cover letter and all of those pieces need to be subpar, need to look really good. But the first secret I want to share, the main strategy that job seekers miss is this one right here. You must have a clear job target. I write resumes for a living. I have a team of people who work with me, and we write resumes for mid-level, mid-professional, and executives. And the hardest part for many of my clients is picking a target for their resume. Resumes have to be specialized. They have to be targeted towards a very specific job. And some of us may have to have more than one resume, depending on what we look for. And then for some of us, for our industry, we may only need one. But in order to run a good job search, you need to have a good, clear job target, or you will frustrate yourself, and you will also not be able to clearly articulate to the employers what you are looking for. I'm going to take a minute in a chat and see how many of you feel you have a very clear job target. And if you know what it is, go ahead and put your target in there, whether it's a specific industry, whether it's a specific job title, put your target in there. If you don't have a clear job target, put in no. Let's see where folks are. Come on. If you have a clear job target, put that title in there. Put that company in there. If it's no, just put no. Okay, good. Excellent. I see some people who want to be supervisors, some people who want to be in federal, some people in the arts. Some people are saying, nope, I don't have a clear job target. That's good advice. Excellent. Okay, very good. So for those of you who have a clear job target, you can build off of that and launch a good job search. For those of you who do not have a clear job target, that is step one in trying to advance your career. For me, the clear job target is more important for our level, the mid-level, mid-professional, than the entry level, because at the level you all are, you don't have room to make a mistake and end up in the wrong place. Hello? You don't have time to leave where you are and go somewhere else and realize you're not happy or satisfied in that job. So the only way to do that is to make sure you know what you are looking for. Now, job target is not just a title. You are mid-level. You are professional. You should also be thinking about your leadership skills. You should also be thinking about company culture. Where can you thrive at? You don't want to go somewhere in advance where you only survive. You want to be somewhere where you can thrive and where you believe in the company's mission, and maybe there's room to grow. So if you have a title or a company in mind, that's great. But the next step is really thinking about the match, right? Just think about it if you were to do online dating. I've never done online dating before, but I'll tell you all this. So my mother has tried online dating, and one day I'm talking to her, and apparently there's a site out there called Silver Singles. So you know how they say your phone listens to you sometimes? Now, ever since I had that conversation with her, I keep getting these ads from Silver Singles. Now, my hair is not silver and I'm not gray. I'm also not single, but I do get these ads. But I'm going to tell you this, when you go on these dating sites, you have to fill in all this information about yourself because their goal is to get you a good match. Okay. And the same thing goes when you're looking for the advancement job, because you really want to go somewhere where you can have a successful experience for you and the employer. It was different when you were entry level coming out of college, looking for that first job, right? Just to gain some experience, right? You're going to, you know what you want to do, but at the same time, you don't know enough about yourself as a worker yet to really know how you can thrive in an environment, but now you do. So now you want to make sure that wherever you go, you can thrive. The other piece about a goal is being very clear on what you're trying to do, because the strategies are different for what you're trying to do. And for those of you who mentioned earlier that you have stopped out, some of us had to stop out of the workplace because of COVID. Now, for me, I worked home virtually for the last year until August. And in Maryland, my daughter's school district, she was a fourth grader last year, also was virtual. It was a very interesting year for me, to say the least. I love my daughter dearly. I love my dog dearly, but somebody had to get out the house this fall. Okay. Somebody had to go because we just were at each other's throats as well. So one of the things that is very important when whether you had to stop out because of COVID, taking care of a parent, you decided to expand your family, you needed a break from the workforce, whatever it is, the strategies will differ for your career advancement. So you must know which one of these you are. Are you just switching, right, careers? When I think of a career switch person, I think of someone who's really staying in the same role, but maybe they're just going to a different department in their company or a different company altogether, but it's pretty much the same role. Are you changing careers? Obviously, this is a little bit more high risk because I'm doing career A and now I want to change to career B. And one of the key terms you hear career professionals talk about is those transferable skills, connecting the dots between career A and career B to show the employer why you should make this career change and you would thrive in this new role. Or career advancers. Many of you said, I am where I am. Many of you, I assume, probably have 5 to 15, maybe 20 years of experience. You're ready for that leadership role. I have been very fortunate in my career to have consistent growth, going from an assistant director, associate director of career services to now a director, as well as being an entrepreneur. So there are some very specific steps you need to do in how you show up on your job now to make sure that you can advance either within your own company or that the next position that you get is an advancement opportunity. Then there are career launchers. There may be some of you who said, you know what, you stopped out for a while, you're just relaunching, completely relaunching a whole brand new career. And then career re-entrance. You stopped out just for a brief time, taking care of children or sick loved one, and now you're just re-entering same role, same level and all of that. Come on, tell me where you are. Pick one of these and in the chat, tell me which one you think you are today. Are you switching? Are you changing, advancing, launching, or re-entering the workforce? Okay, so we have some changers, some switchers and advancers. We have everybody here. Launchers. Oh, excellent. Many advancers. Switching in current agency, maybe a switch or a change, says Tom Jones, but haven't decided. Anne says want some type of job in new location, move up in level. Thank you, Anne. So some of us may even want to move location in this pandemic season. That can mean a lot of things. That can mean moving but working virtually, moving but working in person. It can mean a lot of different things. Thank you all for sharing. So this is why I always say I try to steer away from these are the 5 quick tips, sorry, to get the job that you want, because as you can see, you are all in different industries, you all have a different goal, right? So your job search strategy for advancement and finding a job needs to be individualized to you. And again, that first step is that clear career target. All right. So the other pieces after you have a clear target are the pieces you've heard about before. When is the last time you updated your resume? People, you cannot use the same resume. It wasn't like if you graduated, when I graduated, you had one resume, right? You used it and you applied everywhere. Totally different. It's very taxing these days. You do have to update your resume for every job. Why? If you've heard of these ATS systems or these applicant tracking systems to speed things up, many of the hiring managers or human resources departments are using these electronic systems to scan your resumes. So if your resumes don't have the right keywords, the computer doesn't score it right. And then you don't even go before them. And I'll be honest with you all, that is probably the most frustrating part for most job seekers today. Everybody says, apply online, and you apply online and you never hear back. But it is because of the technology is making the recruiters' lives easier, but it's also making the job seeker lives harder in some instances. But that's why networking is very, very important. Make sure you're on LinkedIn. If you're not a social media person, fine. But if you are a social media person and you're on, what are we on today? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I just left Twitter. I wasn't using it. My students are on TikTok. Be on LinkedIn, because this is now the professional Rolodex. I no longer have a Rolodex. I no longer keep business cards. When I meet people, I take that business card, I look them up on LinkedIn, and I connect and I toss that business card away. LinkedIn is my professional network. And as a terp, our network is vast. I can't even tell you how many times I go to family events, social events, and somebody went to College Park. I went to my daughter's 5th grade orientation this year, and lo and behold, her teacher is also a Terp. Matter of fact, I emailed Ellie. I said, guess what? My daughter's teacher went to College Park as well. And we had the same major. We both majored in communication. That's our network. That is our network. Even the people on this call today, some of you are in the same industries. We are each other's network, but LinkedIn is a good place to do that sort of engagement. Make sure you have a professional headshot. If you have never treated yourself to a professional headshot, please do. Make sure you fill out your profile completely. In my services for my company, I do offer a LinkedIn profile service. It's an affordable service of $75, and I am not here today to even promote those services. I don't care if you use them or not, but what I want you to do is to make sure if you're on LinkedIn, make sure your profile is completely filled out and you have a good picture and you're using it to build your network. I have helped people find jobs, and I have gotten contracts and clients off of LinkedIn. It's a great tool. And then number 3 is the part that this is where the employers tell us candidates are not doing a good job. Highlight your accomplishments. You must show why they should hire you. I call it telling your story. A generic resume doesn't do anything but regurgitate who you are. If you want to advance your career, if you want to be a supervisor or a manager or a leader, you need to share your unique professional brand, who you are. If I were to ask you right now, what is your leadership style? If I were to ask you, what are your top 3 strengths? Those are the things that the employers want, especially for those of us who are seeking advancement at a supervisory, managerial, or leadership level. And we do that by highlighting our accomplishments. How do you do that? Somebody's saying, oh my goodness, Lakeisha, how do I do this? You're not alone. A lot of people do not like writing resumes. Most people don't like practicing interviewing, but I'm going to give you and share a tip for you right now. Write this down. STAR, star. If you want to take your past experiences and communicate them as accomplishments, you write what we call star stories. First, you say, what was the situation? S. What was the task you had? T. What action you took? A. And what were the results? R. And you have an accomplishment statement. Okay? Take some time, especially those of you who want to advance, over the next 2 weeks, 2 hours in peace. Get a cup of coffee. Everybody's drinking this pumpkin coffee right now. I don't understand why y'all put pumpkin in your coffee. It's just not my thing. But get yourself a nice cup of coffee or tea and think about all the accomplishments, things you've accomplished for your company over the last 2 years. Because those need to be integrated into your resume. They need to be talked about on your LinkedIn profile. They need to be mentioned in your interviewing. And you need to just be able to network and talk about your accomplishments, because advancing is all about setting yourself apart. All right, so we've highlighted kind of some of the things that have changed. We've talked about how to get this advancement or job search started for those of us who want to advance our careers. Now let's talk about what you're going to see that will be different when you go out here and start interviewing in some spaces. Now it's different depending on your industry. I cannot say that enough, but here are some of the things that you may find. Actually, I'm going to go to the next slide. Oops. No, I'm not. I'm going to talk about them. That's why I have that here. Okay, so some of the things that you're going to find. A, virtual interviews aren't going anywhere. I know some of us don't like them. It is harder to sell yourself from the top half up and not your whole body, but they're here to stay for the time being now. For those of you who do have in-person interviews, there are going to be some things that may be very different, like interviewing with a mask on. Can you imagine? Interviewing with a mask on, not shaking hands, right? Elbows, right? Or nothing at all. it is very much a different recruitment world out there now. Here in our office, we have virtual career fairs. They're all done online through video. There are no in-person fairs here for safety's sake. The other thing that I think I have seen the most job seekers struggle with right now, particularly I have some employees who have landed advancement opportunities leaving my office. I always like my employees to advance when they move on from our institution, is that onboarding in a virtual or hybrid environment is really complex. Building relationships with new people virtually is not easy. Making sure that you clearly understand, especially that first month where you may not have as much work to do, is really hard. So the self-management, the proactive spirit, the communication skills needed to successfully onboard virtually is very challenging in this environment. So thinking about those things never than before are things like the first 60 days, the first 90 days important. You have to go in today with a game plan, because it's different when you're in the office and you can just run to the new boss's office down the hall or on another floor than when you can't talk to them until you get on another Zoom call, right? So be thinking about that for those of you who are seeking to advance. It's not just the job search, it's not just the interview that's going to look different these days, but starting the job is going to look different. And if you are the leader, my goodness, to start off supervising a team virtually or hybrid is a unique space. It's a new normal. So you want to make sure that you're equipping yourself and preparing for that space. We probably could do a whole workshop just on that and what it looks like. So developing your talent, and we're almost done, and I'd love to take some questions. If folks have some individual career advancement or career search questions they love to ask, but we're almost done here. Okay, so developing yourself. How do you set yourself apart? You set yourself apart by building your competencies. I always love to share with folks the Office of Personnel Management's leadership competencies. So these are the competencies the federal government says that their leaders should have, because I think that they're very comprehensive and holistic to what people look for in leaders. I have been a manager or supervisor of a unit and professional staff since 2013. I have had the unfortunate experience of letting people go through layoffs, through firings, putting people in performance appraisals, celebrating great moments with employees, the birth of new babies, marriages. I've been there with them through hard times, the death of a loved one, getting sick. Being a manager is a whole task in itself. And if this is where you're trying to go, these are 5 competencies you want to build in yourself. You want to be able to articulate in yourself. And in your new job, you should ask for stretch goals now to help you build these competencies. Number 1, knowing how to lead change. And in today's world of work, you have to be agile, you have to be adaptable, you have to be flexible. I have gone from we were sent home for 2 weeks. We were told we weren't coming back to campus. We were told we had virtual services, and then we switched to hybrid services, and we don't know what next semester will look like. You have to know how to lead change these days. Number 2, you have to know how to lead people. This can be very hard for a lot of new managers, because normally you become a new manager in many spaces because you were good at your job. But being good at your job has nothing to do with being good at managing or leading people. So leading people, being results driven, knowing how to get things done. Surely, I tell my staff all the time, do not bring problems my way unless you have a solution. You must focus on results as a manager. The stakes are higher. It's on you, right? Number 4, your business acumen. You're savvy at navigating the politics of work or your workplace, of your industry, of getting things done, managing money, managing human resources, implementing technologies. And number 5, building coalitions, knowing how to get things done across your company and across your industry. Okay. I was so excited this year. I landed a contract, executive coaching contract with a company who had some employees. There were some things not going right, but they had a good worker. And it was so fun to work with a leader and help them develop some of these skills and turn around their team situation. I would recommend to any of you who feel like you don't know where to start with building these competencies, or you struggle maybe in your people skills, emotional intelligence, to find a career coach or executive coach. I think Ellie's going to be coming out soon, if she hasn't already, with a process to connect you to Terps who are in this space and will offer discount prices. I encourage you to do that, because in today's world of work, in today's diverse environment, we need strong leaders. you should know your leadership style. If you're going out to advance and you're going out to look for a leadership role, you should be able to articulate what your style is. I can tell you right now, I have a coaching and transformational style of leadership. My strength is managing change and transforming organizations and professionals. And I also work very well with my employees who are high performers and motivated because they typically need a coaching style. Your style should depend on your supervisees as well, but hopefully you have read books on different leadership styles and you have adopted a style. It is too late once you get in the role sometimes because you're going to have some hard lessons to learn. I can tell you that from experience. So I am telling you now from my own experience and journey as a supervisor, leader, and manager, learn your leadership style now before you get that new advancement role. Okay. And then the final part here before we end up is then how do I develop my other talents? It's not just the leadership, but just how do I grow forward? Tomorrow, I'll be talking to some of those on the executive level near the end of their career. And one of the things I'm going to stress is that in today's world of work, we all have to grow forward. We never arrive because the information's changing too soon. Right? There are too many generations in the workplace. There's too much to adapt to. There's too much agility needed. Technology is moving too fast. So you have to have a way of managing your own professional learning. I call this talent development. It's a system that in the past, one had to learn and then earn, but now it's this expectation of lifelong learning and continuous upgrading. Every other year or so, I go out and take a new training program. The last one that I took was the executive coaching certification just to enhance myself, to create a learning plan for myself. So your learning plan should include 3 things. What type of training do you need? Maybe there's a competency maybe that you want to work on, something you need or your company has told you you need. Number 2, upskilling. Okay, training is things you need to do on your level. Upskilling is I want to be a manager, but I'm not in a role yet, but I'm going to learn how to manage. Upskilling is I'm not doing this yet and my job doesn't need it, but I'm going to learn that. So if I get there, when I get to that space, I'll already have it. And then, of course, remaining current. I'm going to tell you all the main difference between the haves and the have-nots is usually people who choose to remain current in their industry. Now, there are some people where a job is a job. It's not a career. They're content. They're happy. They'd rather focus on hobbies, family, and other things in their life. And I get that. Everybody's not the same. But for those of us who really want to advance, build careers, leave a legacy, we must remain current, reading journals, professional associations, making sure that we're doing many of the things on this slide to grow forward, listening to webinars, listening to podcasts, going to conferences. Maybe you like to read books, or maybe you rather listen to audiobooks or TED Talks. I'll tell you this, I do everything on here, but I'm a learning oriented person. But when I became a mom and a director, the demands on my time changed and I cannot read as much as I like. I'm also at the end of a doctoral program. I'm dissertating right now. Somebody please pray for me that I make it through because every day I want to quit. But I'm so excited about it. I should be defending my dissertation in the spring. So one of the things I do now is audiobooks. If I'm sitting somewhere, matter of fact, I had a former employee text me yesterday and she said, Lakeisha, have you ever heard this book on diversity and equity? I think you would really like it. I said, nope, but I just bought it on Audible. So I have an Audible subscription. I can get free audio books and I listen to them on my commute in and out and when I'm cleaning around the house. And that's how I have in this season where I have a lot of demand on my time, learn to keep up on my own learning. I encourage you all right now to take a snapshot of this screen and think about what types of learning strategies based on your learning style that you can incorporate. If you're not a person that reads a lot of books, you've been happy not to have to read books since you graduated, then maybe YouTube or TED Talks are good for you. If you're more of an extroverted person that likes to be around people, professional associations and conferences are going to be good for you. Just find what works for you to stay constantly up to date on your career and industry. And the last section I'm adding to all of the talks this week for this masterclass is the other pandemic. I'm calling it the other pandemic dynamic, because over the last few years, surely social justice and different types of equity issues have come up in our country. I actually do talks on this in my industry because job searching is not an equitable process in this country, and it would behoove me to sit here and say to you all that it is. The fact of the matter is, for those of you who are identify as women, you're going to make less than a white man in America. For those of you who have natural hair, like I have right now today, you may be discriminated on based on your hair. For those of you who are have an accent, because maybe you came over here, started in college, was as an international student, and you stayed in the US, but you may have an accent and you may be discriminated. Discrimination, unconscious bias is real in this country. It impacts many of us to many degrees. And if it doesn't impact us, because maybe in the spaces we're in, we are of privilege, we will hope that we are then fighting to tear down these walls of things that are not equitable in our country. One of the things I do like to share with people across the country, this is an EEO, or the Equal Opportunity Commission. They collect complaints every year regarding discrimination in this country. And I always show this list of, and I ask people, which of these areas, age, national origin, race, disability, or sex, do you think gets the most discrimination cases in today's workforce? So go ahead and put that in the chat. Last thing I'm going to ask you to put in the chat. Oh, thank you so much, Megan. As a woman with autism, it's brutal. Yes, persons with disability, very hard out here. LGBTQIA. Okay, I see people saying race, disability, age. Thank you guys for participating. Let's take a look. Here's the list. This is the 2017. I've not gone and grabbed the newer list. The top complaint for discrimination in our country is race, followed by disability. Persons with disability do not get it easy when they are looking for work in this country, followed by sex. And this month, if you did not know, is National Coming Out Day is this month, as well as a National Pronoun Day. Okay, and I'm going to let you know, if you are not a person that identifies in the LGBTQIA community, but you want to be a supervisor, you should be read up on personal pronoun usage, because it is here to stay in the workplace, and you need to know how to use them and how to have those conversations as a manager and as a leader. Next in the list is age. Ageism is real in this country, and the group that I get to talk to tomorrow face it more than ever when they go to look for jobs, and people look at their age, or what they assume their age is based on how they look, and make considerations of what they can and can't do. And national origin. What I want to draw your attention to right now are the numbers. Look how many. I think that's what saddens me, is how many of these. So my talk across the whole nation, I've been doing these talks to career professionals across this country, is that when we're going out into the world of work, we are each going out here as individuals. So in some spaces, some of us have privilege, and in some spaces, some of us are underrepresented. Some of us will face discrimination. Some of us will face unconscious bias. As the job seeker, is very important. I think we can't ignore this. I talk to my students about it. My students come in, should I wear my hair natural? Let's talk about what that means. Why should you, or why shouldn't you? And that is your personal choice. Persons with disabilities, when do I ask for an accommodation? LGBTQIA, should I share that I have a partner? Should I share? Should I come out at the job? There's just so many diversity variables. People of faith. I've had Jewish students say, well, every time I go somewhere, they think I can't work on the weekends, because I'm Jewish. I hear so many stories across this country of things people have experienced on their job search or trying to advance. And I just wanted to take some time today to acknowledge that I recognize that everybody on this call will not have the same experience when they go out into the world of work. Here's my tip, my last tip for you. If you are trying to advance your career, you should work as hard as you can to become multiculturally competent, to know you, to know who you are, to understand the people that you work with, to create diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. All right. And the last thing I want to share here, and then I'll take some questions, I'm going to turn it back over to Ellie, is my contact information. Feel free to grab your mobile phone and take a snapshot there. I do check that Gmail account. That is my business account on a regular basis. I would love it if you would connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me that you joined in today. Ask me any questions that you may need. If you need someone to work with you, again, I am working on my dissertation. I'm taking very few clients these days, but if I can't take you on as a client, I will get you to someone someone who definitely can, and you can find me on the website right there. I hope something in this talk today has stood out to you, has helped you in some kind of way and shed some light on your goals to advance your career, look for a new career within the pandemic. We are not out of the pandemic yet, but we definitely are living in a new normal. I'm going to turn it back over to Ellie to open up for questions. Ellie, if there were any questions that were coming up you saw, or if we just want to open up for Q&A, I can stay on till about 1 o'clock.
Great. Well, first of all, I just want to give Lakeisha a virtual round of applause. Hopefully we can all do this in the Zoom reaction buttons, or maybe it's just me. There we go. I see some. Well, thanks, Lakeisha. I feel like you hit on so many topics in a short amount of time. And I was taking notes myself, but just so everyone knows, I did say this in the beginning, but this was recorded, so you can look back, and I did take all the screenshots when Lakeisha asked us to, so I will pass them around to everyone. But I'll give folks some time to type into the chat if they have specific questions. I just had one, and I see yours, Jamie, but I just have one to kick us off. Around what you mentioned about leadership styles. So many folks who might still be developing their leadership style, what advice do you have for them, or what resources do you turn to help them figure out? I know you mentioned I have a coaching style and I have this style, and you had that great list, but what recommendations do you have for folks who might still be trying to figure that out?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, Ellie. The first is I would recommend that you take a leadership style inventory. You probably can find some online that might do you justice, or some books that may have some with them. But I would strongly recommend, if you want to find a coach. Ellie has a good list of people who you can work with to do one of those. And if you've ever heard of the personality assessment, the Myers-Briggs type indicator, they have a leadership inventory. So here at the University of Baltimore, I'm certified to administer the Myers-Briggs, and we, for all of our graduate students, our older professionals, they have the option to take that MBTI leadership assessment. And it talks about you're not just your style for your personality, but you as a communicator, as a leader, how you handle conflict as a leader, which are all really important. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I really think you should have a theory or a model of leadership that you follow, because the difference between being an employee and a leader is, as the leader, you handle the hard stuff, right? As the employee, you dump it on the leader. But when you become the leader, it gets dumped on you, and you have to have a way to navigate that. Mine is called situational leadership. If you've ever read the 1 Minute Manager, or those sorts of books, there's a theory out there called situational leadership, which gives you a model, a matrix of how to work with your employees based on their motivation level and their skill level. And I have found great success in using situational leadership for how I work with my employees to have a super productive office, but also how I handle conflict. That's the third thing I'm going to say. For the persons on the call who identify as women, I'm going to add in assertiveness training. I hear over and over from most people who identify as women that they have trouble with assertiveness, or they've been told they're too assertive. We kind of live in a double conundrum, this conundrum as women, but you do need to know how to be assertive in the workplace. For some of you, depending on your industry, you may already have to do that. And for others of you, you'll have to learn how to do that, how to handle conflict. And then the last thing that I will add to the list. Oh goodness, there was one final thing. Oh, there's a wonderful book called Executive Presence out there. Wonderful book. If you've not read Executive Presence, you need to go out and get it today. In Executive Presence, she says there are 3 things that all leaders must have, is what we look for in someone that we call a successful leader, is knowing what to say, knowing how to say it, and how you look. So it really is the outward part of being a leader. And the best part of it is how you say, because a lot of us become leaders on the job because we're smart. But when we get in a leadership position, if we don't know how to handle conflict with gravitas and to handle the tough stuff, that's when our leadership can really fall apart, or our teams, I call it turn against you, because they will turn against you if you don't know how to handle certain things. So that's my personal download about my journey as a leader, and how I now feel I am to a place of success with being a leader and a manager.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I wrote that book down too, because I think that sounds very interesting to me and a lot of folks on this call. Well, you got a couple questions from some folks, and a lot of them had to do with LinkedIn. So if you have advice on LinkedIn, one of them was around how to develop a LinkedIn headline. Jamie said she sees a lot of cliche buzzwords, but she just needs something stronger than her job title that his or her job title that might stand out.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I would recommend is using a branding statement. So on all the resumes that I do now they're really combination resumes, but many of them have branding statements at the top. And branding statement sort of combines your competency level with your greatest skill or brand or the job you're looking for, right? So it might be, a highly skilled career coach. Some people say, I think some people go on the technical side of saying, this is my level and this is the job I'm looking for. And then other people go with what I call a personality branding statement, motivational speaker, high energy. I think either are fine, depending on what industry you're in and what space, but you are absolutely right. It needs to be something personalized and it should not just be your job title. There is a great book out there called Resume Magic. It is actually the book that I use to study for my resume certification. And there's a section in it that covers taglines and headlines for resumes. You can easily grab a LinkedIn headline or tagline from a book like that. Or you can, I'm trying to think of there may be some internet sources out there for it, but I think Resume Magic is probably one of the best books to get some of those suggested topics from.
Awesome. I love that. Anne had a question about, she is a wonderful public speaker and she has some web links to some of her talks, but she was curious if you had some ideas on how she could better circulate those.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I would recommend is entrepreneurship coaching. So when I started my resume business, I actually had the opportunity I took a program to become certified that also covered how to set up our business. I really encourage folks today who are going into entrepreneurs to either do an informational interviewing session with someone who is already in a similar type of role that you're in, or to pay and get an entrepreneur's coaching experience. I think is so key. My experience not only helped me with launching my business, but it helped me to figure out the legal ramifications of my business, which entity I wanted to select, what marketing I needed as far as a social media presence, as far as a website, budget, bookkeeping, all of those types of things. So I think in your instance, either working with someone who is a communication, there are people out there who do consulting for small businesses like us that will help us build our brand or set it up for us. If you want to dialogue about it a bit more, send me a message on LinkedIn. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing. Send me some links and I can point you in the right direction.
And thank you. I have a plug too. We just started at the Alumni Association, the TERP Entrepreneur Network, and there are a lot of really great resources on our website. We have a spotlight, a 10 for 10 spotlight. So where we take any entrepreneurs who are willing to fill out a form, answering 10 questions about kind of what they do and what their kind of vision is. And we blast that out to the over 300,000 alumni that kind of follow our stuff here. So tons of great resources. And I think that those were the two main questions we got. And we are just out of time. And I know Lakeisha has
I'll
a 1
take
p.m.
one more.
Okay, thanks, Lakeisha. Okay, so Steve had a question. He's faced questions about how he supports commitment to equity and social justice. He doesn't feel like he has a star answer for this. How can I answer this well as a good ally? That's a great question.
Okay, Steve, first of all, thank you for being an ally. This is subject near and dear to my heart. So listen, Steve, I need you to think about specific situations. STAR and accomplishment statements are all about evidence. Think about it like a court. If you had to prove to someone that you were an ally, I know, Steve, there are some things that you have done that you can prove and show why you're an ally. Those are your STAR stories, okay? Those, even if you can't necessarily use the STAR, those are the experiences that provide proof or evidence that you are an ally. I hope that helps. If it doesn't, you want more, send me a LinkedIn message and we can dialogue a little bit more about it on LinkedIn, okay?
Awesome. Well, I hope we can all be new friends on LinkedIn after this conversation. If you're not following Lakeisha, you definitely should be. And a huge, huge thank you to everyone that was on this call today. And again, a huge thank you to Lakeisha for spending your time with us. And for those of you that are tuning in tomorrow to see what it's like from the executive side of things, we will see you again tomorrow. Otherwise, I will send the recording to everyone who registered. Thank you, everyone. And Lakeisha, do you want to close us out with a Go Terps? I usually let our speakers do that.
Absolutely. Go Terps. Thank you all for your time. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.